We will now switch to English. This speech was announced in English, and I think Europe is a village. So warm welcome to today's lengthy title. We will try to provide to you some machetes through this often so-called EU jungle of funding and programs. And it's not quite that bad as it sounds. This is today about tourism, culture, digitalization, and money. Once you start working with the EU funding, applications to implementation to controlling, you will find a very logical framework. That's the good news about it. The bad news is it's a lot of work. The work you don't have to do today is to take notes. We will provide this presentation to you afterwards through the ITB convention portal. And we have put a lot of links onto all those slides where you have deeper information. If you want to speed up this process, kindly leave your business card to Bonita. She's there in the, from my side, left-hand corner. And we will send the presentation directly to your mailbox next week. So let's go to today's program. First, we will present the generic, rather, repetitive pathway to European Union grants, and then explain a little bit about the competency in tourism of Europe. And Soline is really the knowledge bearer here about these special funds, which are relevant for today's topics. And at the end, we will quickly also show interesting other non-financial support by the European Union, especially interesting for non-governmental organizations, SME, etc. And if we have time at the end, we are happy to take your questions. We were digital already before this presentation, and we asked via Twitter and LinkedIn to send us your questions. We did pick up a few questions, and I will sort of post them in between. ITB Advisory, like mentioned already, is a new service area of ITB. ITB is not only selling square meters for you and us to meet, but trying to provide a matchmaking marketplace for the demand and for consulting needs and offer, qualified offer, which of one, I would say, brilliant example is emcra. And emcra assists you also personally with your project application, but especially they are good in training European Union funding experts. And there will be now, starting 25th March, a compact training, which means 1 week presence in Berlin, the other part 5 days online training. And that is an excellent opportunity, I think, to go deeper if you have a concrete project in mind. Here we go. And I'll leave the pathway to Soline.
Thank you very much, Kirsi. I'm very happy to be here to present you funding in the field of digitalization for the tourism and culture sector. Before I start, yes, I want to start with a small animation I prepared for you. This is the pathway to EU grant. As Kirsi said, to obtain an EU grant from the EU Commission, it's a long way, it's a difficult way, but we have a method for you. So I would like to present this method in 10 steps. So I start with the first one. The first step you should do in the EU funding is to understand the big EU funding framework. What is a grant? How does it work? How is the EU funding structure? And also to understand, to get to know the different EU policy, the different EU objectives, etc. Second step would be to, you have already a project idea, of course, and you want to you have to find the right EU funding program suitable for your project idea. The third step would be inside this EU funding program to find the suitable call for proposal. They are published by the European Commission regularly. in your field. And then you can go to the fourth step, generate, consolidate, develop further your project idea. Of course, you have to keep in mind that this project idea should fit the objectives, the policy objective of the European Union. Then, fifth step, you should browse your project environment, identify the right target groups, the stakeholders, to find out how your project is innovative. You can search for other projects which have been funded by the EU in the same domain, in the same field. And then, sixth step, your project intervention should be set. And afterwards, you can start with the application package. You are a project developer, you are the applicant, you should download the application package, then write your application, submit it, and then when everything goes well and when you respect all the steps, the grant should be awarded. But you should note that when the grant is awarded, it's not the end of the work. Then you have to manage your project and to implement it. And this also takes some time. But all in all, you see, there are possibilities, there are methods. Okay, EU competency in tourism. The good news is that EU finance tourism as a business sector. Tourism is a competency of the European Union since 2009. It's a shared competence between the EU and the member states, so the member states still have their tourism policy, but the EU developed also a new political framework for tourism in Europe in 2010 with several objectives. And you see the very first objective is already about digitalization, keeping up to date with new technological and IT developments. So projects in this field will be funded. The second objective is to respond to a growing demand in tourism for a customized experience, new products, new ICT products, new markets, etc., so that the tourism sector remains competitive in the international competition. And the third objective, quite also an important one, is to keep the EU as the first touristic destination in the world, so to keep tourism sustainable, high qualitative, and to promote, to preserve or make the European cultural heritage accessible. And this is where digitalization plays a very important role. This said, the EU also developed a specific digital agenda for Europe. What is it? It is a strategy that proposes to better exploit the potential of information and communication technologies, ICTs, to foster innovation, economic growth, progress in Europe. The EU defined 4 domains. First of all, the EU wants to digitalize the economy. What does it mean? This means provide support through projects to ICT entrepreneurs, startups, SMEs, and use digital technology in every business sector, every industrial sector, and of course, tourism and culture. Then the second domain is digitalization of the society with support to e-services, also projects which provide training in digital skills, promote open data, and digitalize Europe's cultural heritage. Third domain is access and connectivity. The EU wants to create a wireless Europe, so to say, to provide better access for individuals and businesses to digital means, and also to use digitalization to promote the European cultural heritage. The last point, very important, is to invest in research and innovation, and of course to invest in a world-class ICT research and innovation, to help to support researchers who have innovative ideas in ICT, also companies, SMEs, and give access to digital infrastructures. Okay. So at the beginning I said it's really important for you as a project developer or applicant, if you want to obtain an EU grant, it's very important to understand this big EU funding framework. So I give you now some general principles about it. The first principle you should understand is that EU funds are delivered in form of grants. What are grants? They are kind of donation. It's a financial contribution from the EU, a direct financial contribution. So I will mostly in this presentation talk about grants. There are also other financial forms, but I don't want to overwhelm you with too much information. So most important information, grants. Recipients of EU funds are legal persons, this is important to know, and not natural persons, established in an EU member state, or also it's possible to make a international project, so to have also in your project a cooperation country from a non-EU country. This is possible.
Here, Celine, we had a question in advance, and I'd like to see just from the audience how many of you would say that you are from a small or medium enterprise or an NGO, non-governmental organization. Would you raise your hands? Okay, then it's a good question. Okay. The question was, legal persons, we always think that EU funding only applies to, governmental organizations, authorities, etc., municipalities, regions. Is it also relevant for NGOs and SMEs?
Yes, exactly.
So that you can be a lead partner even?
Yeah, you can be a lead partner, exactly. You can be a project coordinator, an applicant, if you are an SME or an NGO. This is true. Okay. Yeah, and this is also a trend. The EU encourages more and more SMEs to participate in projects as legal personnel, full participants. About established, it's important that you understand a structure that the EU finance has to already exist, to have a legal entity. The EU will not finance creation of business, for example. So it will finance a project. The institutions providing EU funds are mostly the European Commission, EC is the abbreviation. It can be that the European Commission delegates as managing authority of a program these to so-called executive agency, which are also based in Brussels, like the European Commission, or in the case of some funds, like structural funds, the EU will delegate the management of EU funding, to the states, the member states, or a region or a municipality. Okay, this is how the EU funding framework looks like. The legal base is the multi-annual financial framework. It defines the different funding allocation of the EU for a financial period of 7 years. Now we are in the financial period 2014-2020. And for this period, there is a total budget of 960 billion euros until 2020, divided, of course, in several EU funding and program, and this is the structure. You can divide it into 4 blocks. 4 blocks. So I will start with block number 1 in blue, Transnational program. This is the one I will present today, the one I will focus on today, as well as the second block, European Structural and Investment Fund, ESIF, because they are the one where there is more funding for digitalization. So this means I will focus on those two, but I will explain a bit the rest. So if we start with the transnational programs, 60% of the EU funding, this means in figures 154 billion. This is mostly dealing, this will fund project, mostly, so transnational project with several EU partners, so they are cooperation projects. It's mostly dealing with transfer of knowledge between partners, between countries, transfer of innovation, best practice exchanges. Yeah? The second block, the European Structural and Investment Funds, 46% of this big cake. This means in figures 417 billion. They are mostly dealing with the so-called regional and cohesion policy of the EU. This means they are projects which are aimed to develop a region, for example. This is why it's more dealing with projects which are regional, local, and you can find funding in your region, in your country. Yeah. For this block, European Structural and Investment Fund, you don't need transnational partner. It's really, as I said, local projects. The other two, Global Europe, it's mostly dealing with international projects between the EU and third country, other geographical area like Asia or Africa, for example. I won't insist on it today because for the topic of digitalization, it's less relevant than the other two. And European Agricultural Guarantee Fund, it's really dealing only with subsidies for farmers, so I won't evoke it today. Okay, so now, just a last slide about the general principles applicable to EU grants, applicable to EU projects. You have several financial rules to respect when you implement a EU project. The first one is co-financing. Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. Co-financing. This means the EU will not cover 100% of the cost generated from a project. There are exceptions, of course, but usually the organization receiving EU grant will have to co-finance, to provide own resources. Second principle, very important, is transparency. The EU as a donor will check every cent it gives to a project, and of course it has to do with eligibility of cost, checking eligibility of cost, controlling that the money is well allocated to the right cost, and possibility of auditing. The next criteria, eligibility, selection, award criteria, are criteria that the EU Commission or the assessor of your project proposal will check, will control to say if your proposal is eligible. And there is also the principle of non-profit. So EU grants are not supposed to generate money, so your project is not supposed to be profit-oriented, but there are exceptions, of course, in the field, for example, of research and innovation, where the EU knows you will probably develop a new product and commercialize it on the market, so of course you will get a profit. Okay. Next slide, yes, if it wants to work. Okay, now let's focus really on EU funding for digitalization in the tourism and culture industry. And as I said, I will focus on the two blocks I described, Transnational Program and European Structural and Investment Fund. And inside those, I have identified 3 funds or programs with relevance for digitalization in tourism and industry. For each program, I will present the objective of the programs, the different calls for proposals, the condition for application, what kind of digital product, ICT product you can develop, and I will give you a selection of best practice examples, how these funds have been already used in some projects. Okay, Transnational EU funding program. As a short reminder, it's funding project, cooperation project. This means you have to work with several EU partners or third countries is also possible. And it's mostly about transfer of innovation, transfer of knowledge, and best practice exchange. So the two transnational EU funding programs interesting for the field of digitalization applicable to tourism and culture sector are Horizon 2020 on the one hand, the big EU funding program for research and innovation, and on the other hand, Creative Europe. Creative Europe being the EU fund for creative and culture industry. Yeah. So, let's start with Horizon 2020, and I start with the overarching objective of Horizon 2020. In bold, as you see, the two relevant objectives for us today are ICT, the development of ICT products for digital content and for cultural and creative industries. This is one of the topics what Horizon 2020 funds. Horizon 2020 funds also action to preserve, to promote, to digitalize the EU cultural heritage. This is also interesting and relevant for us. The rest of the priority, I won't go into detail, but just for you to know, they can also be relevant, of course, for the tourism sector. Here is an overview of the budget of Horizon 2020. As you see, it's a very big pot, so to say. The total budget of Horizon 2020 is 77 billion euros for 7 years. And it's mostly rests on 3 pillars. The first one is in red, excellent science, with 24 billion. The second one, industrial leadership, with 70 billion. And the third one, societal challenges, with almost 30 billion. We will focus on 2 of these pillars. These are marked in yellow-orange, so industrial leadership and societal challenges. This is where you will find the relevant areas of funding for digitalization in the tourism sector. This means when you search for a call for proposal, you should search only in these 2, so industrial leadership and societal challenges. As you see, both are subdivided into specific funding areas. In industrial leadership, as you see, the interesting area is ICT, of course, so development, optimization of ICT products. And the second one is
Darkness.
Yeah, moment.
Digital challenges.
Yeah, digital challenges.
While we are fixing it, I might ask you a question. I've seen a lot of these, projects, and you will show one example where we got this question about. There are a lot of routes and websites and signposting and maps produced, and I find often that it's like a one-shot. And is there in the criteria by now also, in the selection criteria, the question of maintenance? Like how do those partners then make sure that there is a follow-up and updating, because digital must be up to date, otherwise it's dead.
Yeah.
So is that one, one
what
part
you
of the criteria?
refer as maintenance is actually in the jargon of the European Union sustainability. So the EU funds a project for some years. I don't know, in Horizon 2020 it can be 5 years, for example. And then, of course, the EU wants you to explain how you will maintain the products or the service you develop. And I will give an example with smart application for Mediterranean islands, where apps have been developed to showcase touristic islands in the Mediterranean Sea. And these apps will be put on a website, will be updated, some will be commercialized, and this is in the sense of sustainability.
Yeah, so it's in the way of commercialization in that.
Yes, in the way
case,
of commercialization.
Okay.
And commercialization is a kind of
ownership
sustainability.
Okay. Are we getting the screen fixed, or shall we continue without? I mean, we can talk also without slides, and like I said,
can
all the
also talk without.
Yeah. Maybe just to keep up and not to overdo the time. We don't want to do that. Okay.
Okay, so I was talking about if you visualized the second pillar of Horizon 2020, industrial leadership. I said that one of the funding area is ICT, so as a key enabling technology to support the development of high innovative ICT product. And the second area of funding would be innovation in SMEs, and this is quite interesting for the one who work in SMEs. The EU can support with so-called SME instruments the development of innovative ICT product and application developed from an SME. So an SME, small and medium-sized enterprise alone, can, with a EU grant, develop, optimize a product, a service, and put it on the market. So this is also one possibility, this SME instrument. In the third pillar of Horizon 2020, the societal challenge, you have a funding area called Inclusive, Innovative and Reflective Societies, and this is where you will find calls for proposal in the field of digitalization of cultural heritage. I will give you the detailed example of those calls for proposal. I hope, yeah, okay. Or I do it without. Okay, if I start with the area of funding ICT, they are in the year 2016 and 2017, several calls for proposal that the EU already published. One of them being tools for smart digital content in the creative industry. So this can be a good call for proposal for the tourism sector. and it will develop novel ways of producing digital content. Still in the field of ICT, there is a second call for proposal, support technology transfer to creative industry. This is a call with a budget of okay.
We will gallop through to the
of 14 million euros, knowing that Horizon 2020 project can get from 2 to 5 million euros to develop a new technology. Okay. In the area Europe in a Changing World, Reflective Societies, there are also several calls for proposals, one being the development of virtual museum and social platform on European digital heritage, memory, identity and cultural interaction. The call is open for 2016 with a budget, total budget of 11 million euros. Another interesting call for proposal is cultural heritage of European coastal and maritime region. The budget has not been published yet. The deadline of the call is 2nd of February 2017. And then you have a third call, which is European Cultural Heritage, Access and Analysis for Richer Interpretation of the Past. All these calls, you can find them in the so-called working programs of the European Union in Horizon 2020. And you will find, you have the possibility to read the call to see what are the conditions of the call, what is the scope, the challenges, and which products you can develop. Okay, I go further. So I would like to give you a summary of the product you can develop in Horizon 2020. So, of course, it's the program for research and innovation, so you can develop many types of innovative products and services. For example, 3D modeling and representation of objects for accessing EU cultural assets. Or you can create virtual museum, participative digital platforms, advanced user interfaces, databases of digital cultural assets, method of quality management of digital content, and many, many applications, softwares, etc. To participate in Horizon 2020, everything is centralized on one online portal called the Participant Portal of Horizon 2020. There you can find the different funding opportunities, different calls, and you will find again this three-pillar structure I explained and the call for proposal I mentioned.
And for those who came later, the information we gave in the beginning, you have these links all on the slides, which you don't see now.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, yeah, I can talk also about the conditions to apply in Horizon 2020. Financial conditions in Horizon 2020 are very interesting because a project can be subsidized until 155% of the eligible cost, direct and indirect cost. So this is the most interesting program if you apply, because all your eligible costs will be reimbursed and you can also make a profit out of it. The program countries, of course, there has to be EU countries in a partnership, in a consortium, but you can also involve, if it's relevant for transfer of innovation and knowledge, third countries, so non-EU countries. This is also possible in Horizon 2020. The applicants are mostly legal entities from profit and non-profit sector. So in a consortium, you can have a constellation of universities, so scientists working with companies, with SMEs, with technology provider, because in Horizon 2020, you need to develop a new technology. Yes, and also, but also associations. It can be really, it can really bring together many different actors and from transdisciplinary sectors. And usually, you need to apply to be eligible, you need to be at least 3 partners from 3 different countries. But in the reality, because projects in Horizon 2020 are very big, have very big budget, it's always better to have much more partner in your consortium. And you will see in the example I will present, they are most of the time much more partners, so 10 partner or even 20, etc. So now I would like to show you some examples
we'll describe
of
them.
Horizon 2020 that you can develop. The first example, so you can see that you can develop a lot of different projects, so from many different topics. In cultural heritage, safety for tourism, optimization of passenger flow in airport with digital technologies, etc., or application for traveling, etc., etc. So the first example I wanted to show you is CHESS, so it's called CHESS, Cultural Heritage Experiences through Socio-Personal Interactions and Storytelling. The project consists of a consortium of museums. There is, for example, the Museum Acropolis in Greece, and research institution who developed...
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, okay. Don't breathe.
Yeah,
no?
This is one. Okay. Yeah.
It's the number 24, I think, the slide you're looking for. No? Yeah. No, 23.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it was...
There you are. Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, best practice example. As I said, it's a project in the field of cultural heritage experience through socio-personal interaction and storytelling. And, yes, this project addresses mostly the new public, like young digital natives. And it consists of a consortium of museum and research institutions who want to develop new interfaces between visitors and the exhibits. And using tablets, iPads, a visitor can personalize his visit and make it a more adventurous, a more lively experience in a museum. In this project, you have a total of 10 partners. There is, for example, the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft, the Museum Acropolis in Greece, in Athens, and the University of Nottingham. So you see all this diversity of actors cooperating together. And you see also the budget, almost 3 million for 3 years project. The second one, also interesting for tourism, is UnderSafe, keeping underground tourist destination safe, since caves, catacombs, and tunnels become increasingly popular. About 27 million people are expected to visit those attractions every year. Of course, it goes hand in hand with developing also new technology to ensure the safety of the tourists and of the guides and the professional of the tourist sector. This is why this project developed with a budget of 1 million, a wireless intelligent system providing round-the-clock detection and early warning about potential danger to tourists and guides. Most of the partners in the consortium are technology providers, SMEs, etc., and universities. And you see the project coordinator is a Polish SME. A very interesting project is this Smart Island project, 3D smart web services for Mediterranean islands. The idea is to showcase places of interest in the Mediterranean islands. The countries which have been working together are Greece, Italy, Spain, Cyprus, Malta. And for each island which has been showcased, a smart application available on iPad and Android tablet have been developed, and they are on their way to commercialization. The coordinator is from Greece, and the partners are mostly also technology providers and universities. Then, last interesting project in Horizon 2020, PASME, Personalized Airport System for Seamless Mobility and Experience. Since travel, the demand in commercial flights is increasing in Europe, the relevant technology should be also developed to make the passenger flows, to optimize passenger flows, and develop a real-time information system for managing passenger flows and make travel shorter, but also, on the other hand, to provide relevant, timely information to support the passengers themselves in their decision-making and make their travel more comfortable, shorter, etc. You see the budget here is 4.6 million euros, and the coordinator is this time a technology university in Holland, and the two airports that have been tested this system are Schiphol in Amsterdam and Hamburg in Germany, of course. Okay, second program, I still have two programs to present you, and I think timely. Okay, I have to speed up. Yeah. Good. The second program, but it's much shorter because there are less funding opportunity, but still important for you to know, it's Creative Europe. Creative Europe is the EU funding program for creative sector and cultural sector. And there also you see in the objective of the program that two of them are related to digitalization. So it's specifically stated in the program, stimulating interest in and improving access to European cultural heritage. There the EU expects new ways of gaining new audiences with the means of digitalization. For example, creation of virtual museum, of virtual exhibitions, etc., to make European cultural heritage accessible to a broader public.
Here is one question. It looks pretty similar, like the Horizon. Now, so where is the key criteria to say, okay, I should maybe look for this program or rather that program?
Okay, the key criteria, I think it's the money. On the one hand, projects in Horizon 2020 are better financed than in Creative Europe. In Creative Europe, you have a co-financing of 50%. Horizon 2020, we have seen that projects are financed, almost all the costs are covered. But also the difference is that Horizon 2020 is projects are much more challenging. You really have to develop a new technology to test it on the target groups. You have to associate scientists. It's really a program.
High innovation.
Really high innovation.
Okay.
High innovation and involves science. Creative Europe, it's for cultural creative actors. So they can develop a project of best practice experiences. It's enough, an exhibition, etc. Yeah.
Okay.
The second high priority on the agenda of Creative Europe is adaptation to the digital shift for the cultural and creative industries. The rest is just for your information. What are the other objectives of Creative Europe? But mostly, I focus on cultural heritage and the digital shift. This is the budget of Creative Europe. Of course, if you compare to Horizon 2020, it's much less, but still interesting. And most of this budget, almost 500 million, will be allocated to the so-called transnational cooperation projects, which are projects open to all cultural and creative actors who can cooperate in two different categories of projects, smaller ones and bigger ones. So smaller scale cooperation projects should involve at least 3 partners. So if you don't have so much experience and you want to develop virtual exhibition, I don't know, with only 2 partners, you should start with it. The budget is 200,000 maximum EU grant, covering maximum 60% of the eligible budget. But you have also on the other side larger scale cooperation project, and as you see, you can apply for a grant of 2 million euros. But it only represents maximum 50% of the eligible budget. So, in Creative Europe, in this transnational cooperation project, there is 1 call per year. The next one is 5th of October. And you can apply directly on the website of the Executive Agency for Culture. Download the application package and the e-form. Yes. Okay, this is an example of Creative Europe. Its name Follow the Vikings. And as you see, the goal was to bring together a network of cultural actors, mostly museums, to broaden and develop the audience to Viking heritage, to sensibilize the European public to the Viking heritage, and make this heritage accessible and understandable to a worldwide audience. So the budget, you see, it's almost 2 million euros. Okay, now this is my last EU funding, that I want to present you. It's belonging to the European Structural and Investment Fund. And I want to focus on the so-called European Regional Development Fund. With this fund, you can also develop very nice projects with digitalization for the tourism. The characteristic of this fund is unlike transnational project where you have to work with European partner or third countries, is there are really local, regional projects. And this is why they are also managed in the different member states or the different region. And this is also why when you want to apply with this fund, you have to check in which region you are. There are different categories of region. The goal of the EU with this fund is to develop, it's really development, economical and social development of the region, so that all regions in Europe attain the same level of development. So your projects should really have the scope of economical and social development. The European Regional Development Fund also follow some objectives, and you see the two first one are interesting for us, for digitalization. The first one is innovation and research, and the second one is the digital agenda. This means that the European Regional Development Fund will support local and regional projects aiming at enhancing access to use of ICT by developing ICT products, services, e-commerce, e-culture, etc. The budget of the European Regional Development Fund is 183 billion euros. And as I said, the resources allocated to a digital agenda or research on innovation will depend on the category of region or where you live, where you want to apply. So you see there are three categories of region. They are classified according to their level of GDP per capita. If you are, you see more, so Eastern Europe, if you are in the Eastern Europe region, you fall under the least developed region. These are regions with a GDP per capita less than 75% of the EU-28 average. Then the second category are the region in transition, with a GDP per capita between 75 and 90% of the EU-28 average. And the last one more, so Western Europe are the most developed region, competitiveness region with a GDP per capita of more than 90% of the EU-28 average. And of course, depending on under which category you fall, the co-financing rate of the European Union will be adapted. If you implement a project in a less developed region, then you can get up to 85% of co-financing from the European Union. If you are in a more developed region, so Western Europe, you can get only up to 50% of co-financing. Okay, last slide from my side. To find the call and condition, you should go to the website of the European Commission, Regional Policy. And you see, I underlined it in red. You can find the different possibility and funding, and especially in your country. So you have to click on this tab in your country to find to which category of region you belong, how much funding you will get, and who is the managing authority. It can be that the managing authority is the regional council, for example, or in Germany, it's the Land, I don't know, Berlin. Yeah. Okay. Project example, financed through the European Regional Development Fund. You all know the site of Pompeii, of course, in southern Italy. This site has been deteriorating for the last years, and this project of 78 million euros, you see, you can get really a very big grant, consists in restoring the different excavation site of Pompeii with the use of course, digital technology, and provide also a better service, better e-services to the visitors.
We are getting the 2-minute sign now.
Okay, yeah.
Let's come to an end.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm done with my part. Thank you very much.
I found this last example very exciting, and especially for the amount of the money and the time to work on it. So European Union funding doesn't always have to be big and beautiful, but it can also be in a lower scale. I will just quickly explain, get you through those last informations, because we said in the beginning that European Union is not funding setup of businesses, but it certainly is funding, supporting without financing small and medium enterprises. And just to show you quickly what, this is all digital and it's online and it's available there. There is support to small and medium enterprises. The European Union is about networking, so you can find project partners, you can find good practices, you can find ideas and experience on enhancing the European tourism offer. From last year, still this, which has been presented, the European Tourism Indicator System for Sustainable Destinations. And then there is monitoring, virtual tourism observatory for those who need statistics and up-to-date information. Just a quick view to the tourism business portal. It's full of tools and tutorials, opportunities, even job opportunities, job offers are in there. And you can visit webinars within these websites. There are 6 webinars for small and medium enterprises on digital tourism. And this network has been founded a year ago, and there are experts and companies from public and private sector, and their objectives are actually to consult the EU on the further development. You have there the contacts, their so far recommendations, and then this network. In regards to tourism and culture, one area is a sector group on tourism and cultural heritage, and enhancing what European tourism has to offer. The ETIS system is really having a concrete, a data set sheet and set of indicators that you can use to become more competitive, and here was the statistic portal. Further questions, we are happy to take those. Also, go first, read the manual, and then we are happy to take your questions also by email. Thank you very much for being with us today.